You were born in ancient Rome. Imagine you wake up, but not here, not now. You wake up 2,000 years ago, and the first thing you hear isn't an alarm. It's vendors screaming, cattle bellowing, the smell of fresh bread and manure hitting you at the exact same time. The sun hasn't even risen yet, and the city is already wide awake. Because Rome never really sleeps. You're lying on a narrow wooden bed in a small room on the 4th floor of an insula. That's what they called the apartment buildings. No elevator, no running water, and a very real chance the whole thing burns down tonight. Welcome to Rome. This is your life. Every single day. From the moment you're born to the moment you die. And today, we're going to live it together. You are born. Nobody asked if you wanted to be here. The first thing that happens to you, your father picks you up off the floor and lifts you into the air. This was called tollere liberos, to raise the child. If he lifts you, you live. If he doesn't, you'll be carried outside the city walls and left there. Not cruelty by their standards, just a decision. He lifts you. Good start. You don't get a name until the 9th day, if you're a boy, the 8th if you're a girl. Until then, you're officially nobody, just a body that might not make it. Infant mortality in Rome was brutal. 1 in 3 children didn't survive to age 5. You don't know any of this. You just cry and eat. They hang a bulla around your neck, a small gold or leather amulet. It protects you from evil spirits. You'll wear it until you come of age. It's the one thing in the world that is purely, completely yours. You grow up. Your mother nurses you herself because your family is poor. Wealthy families hire a wet nurse, usually a slave. Your family isn't wealthy, so it's her. You remember her hands, small, quick, always moving. You live in an insula, a 6-story building where the ground floor is shops and taverns. The middle floors go to people with more money, and the very top, right under the roof, is the cheapest. That's you, 4th floor, which means every single day, up and down a steep wooden staircase. You carry water from the street fountain. You throw your rubbish out the window, straight down onto the street. Yes, and everyone does it, so nobody blinks. At night, you sometimes hear something cracking in the building next door. Fire in Rome is not unusual. You've learned to sleep lightly. You're 5 years old, and you're already working. Not in a mine, not yet. Just helping, carrying things, watching the younger kids. Rome doesn't really have childhood the way we think of it. Children here are just small adults who are still allowed to make a few mistakes. You go to school. If you're lucky, and you are, a little, your father sends you to school at 7. School isn't a building, it's a street corner. The teacher, called a ludus magister, sits on a folding chair under an awning, children gathered around him. Right there on the street. Carts rolling past, vendors yelling, somebody arguing nearby. You learn to read through all of it. The teacher is strict, very strict. The cane isn't a threat, it's a teaching tool. You forgot your lesson once. You learned that lesson a different way. You never forgot again. You learn to write Latin. You already speak it, but writing is different. You learn arithmetic on an abacus. You memorize passages from Homer, from Roman law, from famous speeches. Memory is your most important tool. Books exist, but they're expensive. Everything lives in your head. At 12, if you're lucky again, a second teacher takes you on. a grammaticus. He teaches you to read serious texts, to analyze, to think. This is already a luxury most kids around you will never have. You step into the city. Rome has 1 million people crammed into a space smaller than modern-day Paris. That means people everywhere, noise everywhere, smell everywhere. You walk out in the morning, and the first thing you hit is a queue at the bakery. Bread in Rome is life, literally. The government hands out free grain to the poor. It's called the annona. Without it, half the city would starve. You take your bread, flat, dark, dense, and keep moving. Carts aren't allowed on the streets during the day. The law bans them. It's too crowded. So the city thunders with wheels all night, and by morning, the cobblestones are covered in manure. You've learned to step around it without thinking. The Forum is the heart of everything. You don't go there as a tourist. You go because that's where life happens. Trials, trade, politics, gossip, street philosophers, jugglers, moneylenders, all of it at once, in one place. You look at the Temple of Saturn, that's where the state treasury is kept, and think about money. You look at the rostra, the speaker's platform, and think, maybe one day, maybe. You go to the baths. Every day, the baths. Not a luxury, an obligation. The thermi aren't just a place to wash. They're a club, a networking event, and a news broadcast all rolled into one. You pay 1 quadrans, less than a penny, and get hours of it. First you undress in the apoditerium, the changing room. You leave your clothes and hope nobody steals them. Then the tepidarium, warm room, ease yourself in. Then the caldarium, hot and steamy, pour water over yourself. Then the frigidarium, the cold plunge pool. That part takes courage. While you're in there, you talk. You find out what's happening, what someone said in the Senate, who won at the races, who died, who got married. Rome runs on gossip, and the baths are the main pipeline. The wealthy have their own private baths, bigger and fancier. But the public ones are fine. You leave clean, relaxed, and fully caught up on everything. 3 things at once. You eat. The main meal of the day is around noon, from midday to 2. Rome slows down. Shops close. People head home or to a tavern. You're poor, so there's not much cooking at home. There's no hearth, fire risk. Upper floor hearths are banned in insulae. You eat cold, bread, olives, onion, cheese. For hot food, you go to a thermopolium, a street counter with clay pots built directly into the stone, full of food ready to serve. Ancient fast food, exactly like that. If you're lucky, lentil soup. If you're very lucky, a piece of boiled fish. The wealthy eat differently. 3 hours lying on a dining couch, a triclinium, while slaves bring course after course. Dormouse, flamingo, oysters, multi-layered meat pies. Some guests deliberately make themselves vomit so they can keep eating. You know this. It makes you angry. But Rome is like that. Some people eat until they're sick. Some people count their olives. You go to the games. Every few weeks, the circus or the amphitheater, free of charge. The government pays for the games. Politicians pay for the games to keep the people happy. Bread and circuses isn't a metaphor. It's an actual policy, written down and followed. The Circus Maximus holds 250,000 people. You get there early, find a spot. Rich and poor sit side by side. Men, women, free citizens, slaves. The chariot races are the Formula One of the ancient world, except when a driver dies, nobody is particularly shocked. 7 laps, horses screaming around the turn. The crowd is so loud your ears ring. You scream with them. This is one of the only moments in your life when you're not thinking about anything, just red or blue, which team you're backing. The amphitheater is something else. Gladiators. You've watched this 100 times, and it always lands the same way. When a gladiator goes down and looks up at the stands, at you, you understand that that look stays with you. You raise your thumb with the crowd, up or down. In that moment, you have power. You don't have anywhere else in your life. And you know it means nothing. You serve. At 17, if you're a citizen, you can be called up for military service. You put on a tunic, then a larica, metal plates across your chest. You take a pilum, a heavy throwing spear, and a gladius, a short stabbing sword. On your shoulder, a scutum, a rectangular shield almost as tall as you. That's 45 pounds of kit you'll carry for the next 20 years. The Legion isn't just an army. It's a city that moves. 6,000 men who eat together, sleep together, build a camp every evening, tear it down every morning, march, and build it again. Even if you're leaving tomorrow, you build the camp tonight. Because discipline isn't about this particular camp. It's about the habit of doing it. You march to Gaul, or Judea, or Britain, where it's cold even in summer and the locals paint their faces blue. You see things nobody talks about back in Rome: burning villages, prisoners, friends who aren't there anymore. You come back after 20 years, or you don't. If you come back, you get a plot of land and a little money, enough to start something. You get married. A wife is a contract between two families. Love is nice, but optional. You're 22. She's 14. Standard by Roman law. Your father arranged it with her father. You saw her once before the wedding. She looked at the floor. The wedding is a sacrifice, a feast, a procession through the streets. The bride cries. That's a good sign. It means she was happy in her father's house and doesn't want to leave. You lead her to your home. She steps over the threshold, and now it's hers too. A year later, a child is born. You pick it up off the floor. The whole thing starts again. You get sick. One morning you wake up and you can't stand. Fever, pain in your stomach. In Rome, that could be anything. Malaria from the marshes around the city. Typhoid from dirty water. Something you ate. A doctor comes. Rome has doctors, mostly Greeks, because the Greeks are better at medicine. He checks your pulse, inspects your urine. Yes, that's a real diagnostic method, and gives you a treatment plan. The treatment? Rest, specific foods, herbal drinks, sometimes bloodletting. Doctors believe that releasing blood lets the illness escape. It doesn't help. Everyone does it anyway. You make a vow to the gods. If you survive, you'll make an offering at the temple. You survive. You make the offering. Next time, you might not. That's part of the deal. You get old. By 40, if you've made it, you're already old by Roman standards. The average life expectancy is around 35. But that's the average, dragged down by all the children who die young and all the soldiers who don't come back. People who make it through both can live to 60, even 70. Your teeth hurt. Your back hurts. Your eyes aren't what they were. You remember running through the streets of Rome, feeling like that would never end. It ends. You sit outside your shop. You have a small shop now, you sell cloth, and you watch a young soldier walk past, straight-backed, fast, not looking at anything except where he's going. You were that once. Rome walks past you, always loud, always alive, always the same, and always different. You die. Death in Rome is a public event. The wealthy die at home, surrounded by family, clients, slaves. Everyone weeps, from grief if they feel it, from obligation if they don't. Hired mourning women tear at their hair and wail loudly in the street. They're paid specifically to do this, to signal that this person mattered. You're washed, dressed in white. A coin is placed under your tongue, payment to Karen for passage across the river of the dead. It's a Greek tradition, but Rome made it its own. A procession moves through the city. They carry imagines, wax masks made from the faces of everyone in your family who died before you. Now, you join them. You're cremated outside the city walls. The law forbids burial inside Rome. A stone goes up at the site, your name, the years, and usually a line. Romans loved inscriptions on graves. The most common one found by archaeologists: I was not. I was. I am not. I don't care. By the numbers. You lived in Rome, if you were lucky, for around 50 years. In that time, you lived through around 5 emperors. Several were murdered. Some were murdered by the people who replaced them. You witnessed at least 3 major fires in the city. Rome burned regularly. You paid a urine tax? Yes, that was real. Emperor Vespasian taxed public urinals. Everyone needs money. You never ate a tomato, a potato, or a chili pepper. None of them existed in Europe yet. You saw the Colosseum. If you lived after 80 AD, it held 50,000 people. You drank your wine mixed with water. Drinking wine straight was considered barbaric. You used a shared sponge on a stick instead of toilet paper. One sponge. For everyone. Yes. The Roman Empire at its height, from 27 BC to 476 AD, lasted 500 years. The roads they built are still in use. The laws they wrote became the foundation of legal systems across the entire Western world. Latin became the mother of Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian. And somewhere in all of that, you lived. Small, unrecorded, completely real. Dum vivimus, vivimus. While we live, let us live. Ancient Roman proverb.